Disclaimer: the following video contains spoiler for all Alliance Raid content from A Realm Reborn to Dawntrail. The Crystal Tower Raid series is good and I'm tired of people saying it isn't. Hi! I want to preface here that what individual people think is always going to be subjective no matter what, and that is absolutely going to be my own personal opinion that I like to share and show to people who roll their eyes every single time one of these three raids show up, that there is something wonderful there that we are nowadays missing out on. Now don't get me wrong, I completely understand why people dislike them. Every day you go into your Alliance Roulette daily, 9 times out of 10 it's going to be Labyrinth of the Ancients, Circus Tower or Vault of Darkness. The reason being that they are the only obligatory raids in the MSQ for Final Fantasy XIV. So every player that exists is going to go through them compared to Stormblood or Shadowbringers or any other raids that are further down the game's progression. Not to mention that they are optional, so a lot of players are going to be missing on just starting them to begin with. Granted that for the longest time after 7.0, you would get Aglaia as it was getting spammed for easy experience, which granted at the time of writing this script they already patched this, so maybe you're not gonna get Aglaia as much anymore. While I understand this frustration, I really don't want the sentiment of hating these raids just because they pop on roulettes a lot to pollute the discussion around them. I, for one, am kind of happy when I get the Crystal Tower raids for a couple of reasons, even though some of them cannot be experienced anymore. But I really wish the developers would pay attention to, again, in future content. Though after 7.2's patch notes regarding combat design for the future, I feel like this is going to be out of the question now. Regardless, where am I going with this? Let's talk about encounter design in Final Fantasy XIV. The Crystal Tower raids have such a unique design to them compared to any new raid coming out, and you can feel it. As much as I love the Dawntrail's new Alliance raid, I won't deny that it just feels the same as any other of the encounters we have had for the past few years. While the third boss of the raid is very interesting and chaotic, it lands on the same fundamental battle mechanics we have been dealing with for the past few years. Move to the safe spot and keep doing damage. Move to the safe spot and keep doing damage. Move to the safe spot and keep doing damage. And guess what? Move to the safe spot and keep doing damage. The recent changes to Black Mage and the announcement of how spellcasting in general is going to mess with future encounter design just tells me that they believe this whole move faster to the safe spot is what players are here for. The developers seem to despise the idea of the player stopping at any point, that the player will get bored if they are not doing damage to the boss and moving from left to right constantly. So why am I bringing up the Crystal Tower raids as the best ones in the game while there are so many others with all these flashy effects and move to the safe spot mechanics? It's actually pretty simple. The Crystal Tower raid series has more involved mechanics than any of the new series combines. Not by much, I will tell you right now, not by much. It's maybe like 1 or 2 little steps, but it's something nonetheless. The pacing I feel during these raids is like nothing I have been able to get out of any new raid. They are the shortest and fastest raids in the game right now, but the fights themselves are somewhat more methodical than we give them credit for nowadays. Mostly due because we already outgrew them level-wise. The reason being that our characters are so geared up that our item level just nullifies this raid's mechanics entirely. Take for example the infamous 3 platforms in Labyrinth of the Ancients. The original intention in this is for the 3 alliances to split up, 4 people stay in the platform to make the other Atomos on the alliances vulnerable to attacks, while the 3 remaining players fight the Atomos in their platform. The tank in the meantime pulls the spawning adds towards the players in the button, so they are not just standing there doing nothing. So already you have more involved encounter than any of the ones in Endwalker of Dawntrail. Alliances splitting in 3, parties splitting in 2, while the tank pulls mobs towards the group. Design-wise, this is in my opinion a good example of teamwork. While yes, I understand this is something that can and has gone wrong, even today with people starting the encounter early, locking people who are not close into Ace platform, you can also have those who don't want to stand in the button and such, which makes the encounter last way longer than it needs to. This gives the encounter a fail state, a reason for players to communicate and make, granted, very small decisions, but decisions nonetheless around it. I always feel like Alliance Raid should have the players communicate a bit rather than mindlessly killing things in autopilot. Does that mean you have to rely on other people to get things done besides just doing damage? Yeah, this is a multiplayer game. It's not just a DPS check. That being said, due to the aforementioned item level, the platform's design just falls apart. as people now do not want to be the ones on the button since they can't play the game, as the 4 other players on the Atomos can now easily kill the adds and the Atomos in a blink. So the tank doesn't need to pull the adds anymore, making it so 4 people are just left out of the encounter, basically being a glorified paperweight. And to this day, if it gets pulled early and you are teleported in, you still end up in A's platform. How about the next encounter with the Allagan Bomb? Again, very simple design, but somewhat more involved than other mini-bosses or trash packs we encounter in the new raids. The alliances once again divide into 3 groups to take on individual demons, while bombs spawn that have to be disposed of, this including especially the Napalm mob, that has to be stopped from reaching the Allagan Bomb or it becomes increasingly stronger and more dangerous. Most mini-bosses or trash mobs in raids we encounter now seem to only have in and out mechanics and maybe one interrupt, if we are lucky, but it's just another tank and spank. King Behemoth has mechanics we completely ignore now because of the item level, making us absurdly strong. Most players know this fight as 1 tank on Behemoth, 1 tank on the Giant, keep the Giant away from destroying the meteors. That's it. Some folks probably don't even notice the constant damage being done by the towers that have to be interacted with, this no longer being an issue since you just focus on killing the Behemoth. Phlegethon's boss fight, the very first last boss of an alliance raid in the entire game, he is very easy and uneventful to today's standards, yet in my opinion, it is a little more involved. You start by dividing the alliance in 3 groups, once again, with each having a respective button that they will need to get to in order to raise a barrier to avoid a wipe. Phlegethon himself doesn't have anything fancy past dodging some mechanics for sure, but the alliance mechanics wise have to manage dodging set attacks, returning to their buttons to raise the barrier, fight off the giants and protect the ranged players from the claws that spawn in trying to kill them. While yes, again, this is not much, it is at least 1 or 2 steps more than just moving and doing damage to the one boss. Raising the barrier basically creates a small encounter for individual parties to deal with, which is only possible thanks to everyone doing their job and keeping the alliance alive. I know this one doesn't feel like much, but A, this is the very first alliance made, and B, it breeds even a slight chance for failure and creativity. You may have noticed that Phlegethon is usually moved closer to B's platform by the main tank in a run or 2, the reason being that the only time the boss resets to the middle is for the big wipe attack. Tanks usually move him closer to B so he has to walk, and people after seeing this have more time to react and run back to their buttons. Now, with almost every single boss not moving from the center or the wall, it makes so the tanks can't really do stuff like this with positioning anymore. I would love to go into detail with each encounter, but for the sake of not making this video far longer than it needs to, I'll do some highlights, but I hope this sheds a light on encounter design for the Crystal Tower raids compared to modern Alliance raids. Crystal Tower seems to have had way more encounters where alliances had to split up and do mini fights with each role accomplishing a task, not to mention the reliance on other alliances to support them in fulfilling them. The best example of this is found in Cerberus. Cerberus is my favorite alliance fight from a gameplay standpoint. You have a main tank on Cerberus, who by the way has to be attacked from the side since his front and the back are very dangerous. Sometimes you will even see a tank position Cerberus facing sideways, so this long arena is easier to maneuver. The other 2 tanks split between tanking Wolfsbane, which are the adds, so it doesn't kill the rest of the alliance, while the other tank is fighting Cerberus from the inside. Yeah, you remember that part? You have to go inside Cerberus. It is very unlikely, but there may even be people watching this who are not aware of this. Players, usually Alliance B for Belly, has to deep in an AoE, become small, go into the purple pool, and get eaten by Cerberus. This sends them into another area where they have to strike Cerberus from the inside, while dealing with an ad. Fulfilling this task flushes the party out of Cerberus through whatever orifice makes you less comfortable, stunning Cerberus for long enough that 2 members of the other alliance can collect chains from the arena and leash that puppy. You see what I mean by more engaging combat design? If I had to imagine, if Cerberus was made today, it would probably be just another tank and spank who resets to a wall spawning AoEs that you have to move out of the way for. At most, it would spit out cone AoEs from its mouth. That would be the extent of the sign. Oh wait, I don't have to imagine it, because we have seen it in Shadowbringers. If you ask me, I would rather have more encounters like Cerberus, than any of the Endwalker ones. Speaking of which, I would say that Limlane's having a unique interaction with the Keys emote, that is awesome. I actually enjoy that.
Oi! Cut it out, you! Oi! Cut it out, you! Oi! Cut it out, you!
More secret interactions, please. But hopefully this is bringing up to light what I mean by saying that these raids are design-wise way more interesting than anything we are getting today. It's as if they have given up on anything past dodging mechanics and not wanting to have players rely on other groups to progress. Everything just becomes a glorified DPS check. In the Crystal Tower raids, you have stuff like the aforementioned buttons stopping the napalm, tanking King Behemoth and the Iron Giant separately, preventing it from destroying the meteors while protecting and interacting with the towers, which are no longer necessary, enough people running back to activate barriers, standing inside the turrets to debuff Thanatos and made the turrets vulnerable to being destroyed, defrosting your companions with orbs, or by becoming a frog, fighting Cerberus and his ass while a team shrinks down, goes inside and fights the stomach while another team gets ready to chain him up, alliances splitting to fight the Bone Dragon and prevent the skeleton ads from killing casters and rush towards the dragon to do big AoE damage. Relying on the other alliances in a team effort to keep everyone on the platforms and fight the Atomos that keeps pushing you back, trading a tether among the other players to prevent it from killing you, even fighting off dark portals instead of the boss as to prevent strong ads from spawning. Meanwhile, if I may be a little reductive here, all alliance raids mechanics nowadays are move out of the way, move out of the way, move out of the way, maybe an interrupt, move to the safe spot, move to the safe spot, move to the safe spot, and lastly, move to the safe spot. This goes on from the first boss to the trash pools to even the final boss. The only raid I can think of that did something different and I wish we could get more of was the Nier raids. That one section where you get turned into a little hacker ship and have to switch color to avoid damage and destroy the orbs. I want that. I want more of that. Give me more of that. I don't care about my DPS and doing more damage while dodging attacks. I just want to turn into a tiny ship and get a special set of controls. That's fun. I'm not saying you're not allowed to like the new raids or that you have to like the Crystal Tower raids. I'm not saying that the new raids are garbage tier and you should hate them. I am saying, however, that we should be getting more engaging mechanics in our content, that it's not just do more damage and move to the safe spot. Just make us have to rely on teamwork besides standing on towers and stack markers. I live now with the fear that they will one day change the Crystal Tower raids to resemble the modern combat design, just like they are neutering dungeons nowadays. I am begging Yoshi P, the rest of the development team, Mr. Osma, please go back to designing encounters with the Crystal Tower and even the Void Ark, which also had moments where it felt like an alliance and not just a mob of people doing damage. You actually had to rely on people. I won't deny that the most exciting fight in the latest alliance raid was the Archangels, which, yeah, it was still mostly just moving to the safe spot. It was nice having people doing interrupts with each alliance having a specific target to fight, but it still doesn't feel nearly as interesting as something like Cerberus. I am begging the combat development team to slow down. Not every encounter has to have the players constantly moving, like rats high on sugar. I'm sure you can think of more than just AoEs galore. With all of this being said, what do you think? Have I brought up to your attention anything to nitpick and share? What is mechanically the most interesting fight in the game for you? Do you value your damage uptime over interactive encounters? Let me know what you think down below. I thank you once again for your support on my Patreon and social media, and especially for taking your time to listen to my ramblings. I wish you a good rest of your day. To take care, stay safe, and I'll be talking to you next time. Bye bye everybody. On a side note, can Yoshi P shadow buff the party stacks on Sanda's fight so people stop stacking them all in the same place? I feel like this is teaching the Sprouts a bad habit, I'm just saying.